So, show of hands, does anyone remember being dramatic as a teenager? Being emotional all the time, making really bad decisions, not only saying, "Ugh, this is the worst thing ever," but meaning it. So all of that was true. You were just being authentic to your emotional experience because the prefrontal cortex of your brain, which is in charge of emotional processing and development, doesn't finish growing until you are at least 25. 25. So all of the frustrations of being a teenager, teen angst, crushes, loss of friends, loss of virginities, peer pressure, drugs, eating disorders, all of that is exemplified by having a brain that cannot yet process emotions in the same way an adult brain can. I want to be clear here and state, I'm not saying teens are dumb or handicapped. That's the opposite of what I believe. I think teens are geniuses in ways that adults even aren't. What I am saying here is teens need someone writing expressly for them. And that's what brings me here tonight. So let me tell you a story. When I was 15, my parents told me that we would be moving from our home of sunny Southern California, 2,507 miles away, to Orlando, Florida, where I knew no one. You guys, I left behind everything. I left behind my high school, my theater group, my bedroom that I had just painted the perfect shade of baby blue with little white cloud appliques. But most of all, I left behind some wonderful friends. And so when I got to Florida, all I had were my parents and my books. And because my parents totally didn't get it, I turned to books. I turned to young adult books. And I turned mostly to The Perks of Being a Wallflower by Stephen Chbosky. Now, a few things. Perks is set in the mid-1990s. I went to high school in the mid-2000s. Perks' protagonist, Charlie, is a boy. I'm not. And Perks' plot is about being sexually abused by family members. Thankfully, that's not true of my story. But teen angsty me didn't care about all the ways that Perks wasn't my story. It was my story because of the way that Charlie felt, depressed and alone, like I did. And right then, I just needed someone to say, me too. And I needed someone to say, hey, it's okay to be mad, and that's where Crown Jewel by Sherwood Smith came in. It couldn't be more different than Perks of Being a Wallflower. It's set in 17th century France, except magic. And the main character, Meliara, is a redhead, like me, and she's a badass who totally beats it at a war in her region with sword fighting and a secret fan language, which is so cool. So cool. But mostly, she fights for her right to have a homeland. And I got that, because right then, I didn't feel like I had a homeland. So, after 2.5 years of working in young adult publishing, I know I'm not the only one for whom YA is life-changing. Seems about every conversation I have with someone on the topic ends with, oh yeah, I remember that one book from probably high school English class, maybe one of the classics, exploring different perspectives like losing a best friend, going crazy, or trying to escape the clutches of an oddly complexed overlord. Maybe some of us know something about that. But in all seriousness, I believe that young adult literature is important so that everyone can see themselves on the pages of books, so they don't feel alone. There's a clarion call right now going on in publishing called We Need Diverse Books. Writers, teachers, publishers, parents, librarians, all saying we need teens to see themselves in literature. We need books for our queer teens, our teens of color, our teens of different ability. Teens who desperately, desperately need someone to say to them, hey, I see you and you aren't alone. Our teen girls need to hear that they're more than just a vapid love interest or a manic pixie dream girl. Our teens of color need to hear that they're more than just a sidekick. Our teens of different ability need to hear they're not a joke. And our queer teens need to hear that they are more than a sassy best friend. Also, in 2011, YA authors took to Twitter on the hashtag YA Saves to share about how readers had shared with them letters about how their book had saved their lives. Authors shared that they'd received letters saying, "Your book saved me from an abusive home life. Your book helped me deal with my rape recovery." Our young people need books like The Hate U Give by Angie Thomas. It's received critical acclaim, has been on the New York Times YA bestseller list since it came out 6 months ago because of the critical claim or the critical truth it tells about racial violence in our country right now. Our teens need books like Aristotle and Dante Discover the Secrets of the Universe to tell them life goes on after coming out. The author, Benjamin Allaire Sains, writes about how he receives probably about 100 emails a week from teens saying, "Your book gave me the courage to come out of the closet." Lastly, if you need an example of how young adult literature can save lives, about why it's important, about why we need it, hi, I'm standing here because young adult literature saved my life. Thank you so much.